Hello, folks. Welcome to my stream. Let me know if this is okay, the sound and everything. I realize that there may be some sort of like bandwidth issue with my setting, and I also got a new camera and everything. So, but welcome everybody. Yeah, let me know if you like. Let me know where you're from too. And I know normally too, I have a couple folks too from my Discord channel that would be here. Not sure if anybody from there is here today. And then I also this morning did a webinar for my company, right? So if you're joining after that, really welcome you to my Discord channel. So as such, I ran out of time doing the demo. So hopefully this will cover some of the things that I was intending to do. So again, welcome. Let me know again if you feel comfortable. Let me know where you're from, and and then if you are from the webinar, that's how you get directed here. Please let me know too. That I think that would be great. And if you're following me, that's even better. So I encourage you to follow me here on Twitch. So. All right. So without further ado, let me kind of get started in get things going. But as such too, I still normally too, right? I like to spend a couple minutes just talking about things. So I hope you guys are doing well. Right now is almost end of January, almost like end of the month. And so here in where I am in Chicago, as you can see, this is actually an image that I have, right? That I put on this screen here, and it's actually Chicago as you're looking at it. So by a really, really well-known photographer, especially based in the Chicago area. So, anyway, and I just thought I, share his good stuff. So maybe if you're interested, let me know, and I can share with you his Twitter handle, and then you can kind of look at the pictures that he has too. But anyway, so without further ado, let me get busy and get switched to my thing. So, okay. So I hope you can see me now. And as such, right, I wanted to first to show everybody, right, how you can kind of quickly use HiveMQ, right? And of course, I know we've talked about MQTT. So actually, that might be good too, because not everybody came to my presentation earlier. So let me actually first share with you the slides a little bit, just page through again. So then if you're new here, it should be like a good quick kind of introduction in a nutshell to let you know what it is. So if you can bear with me for 1 second, let me switch and get my slides. Actually, I wasn't thinking of presenting because I already did that, but comes to think of it, there are folks that actually did not see it this morning. So, and let me do it. Okay, okay, just real quick, folks, especially here. Oops. Oh yeah. So just bear with me a minute. Let me bring this over here. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll bring it over my other screen. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Let me know too, in case the music, everything is a little too loud or something. It's just sometimes harder to say. And I think I see something in the chat, maybe. Oh, I think sorry. I think there's that one. Somebody is some bot, so I'm gonna have to block. I guess I'll block this guy. So okay. Okay, so let me then first talk about some IoT stuff and why MQTT, it's kind of like the standard now, right? So, okay, let me also check something. It looks like, yeah, it looks like on Twitch, I think the resolution is fine from my side, but please let me know in case you're looking at the screen and you notice that it isn't very clear and everything, and I can try to adjust, because earlier too, when I was on the webinar, which is actually using a Zoom webinar, apparently, actually, I was told too, it didn't come out, it came out rather blurry. So it could also be like a Twitch, not a Twitch, but a Zoom kind of setup issue too. I haven't got time to kind of experiment with that, but it looks like now on here on Twitch, it looks okay, right? And I also am actually streaming to my YouTube channel too. So if you are there, I should share with you too. But most likely, if you follow me on Twitch, I actually have everything also being like streamed over there, so I can store it. So okay, so let me start. So IoT. So folks, if you're interested in IoT or just curious and want to know more about it, and even for me, I've done a bit of a research to try to look at the larger landscape, to try to understand how everything kind of fits in together. Because there's been so much talk, right? That's an interesting thing. When I first heard about IoT, in my mind, I'm always thinking of the, Raspberry Pi, Arduino, or some microcontroller. You're trying to send data to another device, right? Machine to machine kind of communication, more on the consumer side, so to speak. But actually, it's a much larger field, kind of like behind the scenes. So as such, right, it's good to kind of get a good picture of the whole kind of landscape. That's how I normally like to approach problems, because it helps me to kind of set the stage for me, so to speak. So okay, so from 30,000 feet, right, from high up to look into this, like I said, right now, well, the thing is too, I'm not running this in presentation mode, so I'll just kind of quickly explain. So again, if you kind of go into the bottom kind of stack, it's really all the devices, right, the physical kind of hardware. It's things like smart devices and sensors and actuators and embedded devices. So like your wearables, for example, those things are communicating too, right? Getting data from somewhere that it needs and all these things. So, okay, so we all know devices. So in order for it to be able to communicate with another device, or, the server somewhere, right, with the cloud, whatever it is, it needs to kind of go through, the communication channel and all the, what kind of protocol are we talking about, right? So this is actually where MQTT fits in. It is on the protocol level. It's actually, if you are aware, right, of the networking, kind of a networking guideline, networking layer, right? The OSI, Open Systems International, I think, right? Okay, let's take a look. Why don't we do that, right? We're here too. Again, this isn't way too formal like a channel of things, but we're kind of talking about this and learning together. That's the whole point. So, okay, so OSI, the network model, right? Network model layers, right? So actually, let's look at it. That looks like a good one. Well, see all of these things, right? Which one should we get? Okay, all right. Well, let's just take a look at this, right? This seems to be a bit more direct, less complicated, so to speak. So, well, and then this is kind of small, but let's kind of expand on it. Okay, here we go. So from geeksforgeeks.org, this is a good way, simple enough to kind of quickly kind of look at it. So as you can see, there are like 7 layers. So it starts with bottom is the physical layer, right? The devices, the actual thing. And then we go into data link. And then the link basically then will kind of get into the networking layer, stuff like that. So networking layer would be something like UDP. And actually, this is a little bit annoying here, but hopefully you can see it. So basically, networking layer, and those are essentially the bottom three are network or hardware kind of layers. And basically, the heart of OSI is the transport layer. So essentially, too, right? TCP/IP. We're using a browser, HTTP. All of these things, it relies on TCP/IP. So that's where kind of like the heart. That is very true. It's kind of the core of OSI. And then basically, too, above it, right? The fourth, fifth, or sixth, and seventh, and eighth. What am I talking about? Fifth, sixth, and eighth. Five, six, and seven. So 7 layers. So the session layer, presentation layer, application layer, all of these. So essentially, MQTT fits onto the application layer is what it is. So it's more like application. Well, in a sense, it's not like us, kind of like a program running on your browser kind of application, but it's more like, okay, on the networking side, these layers is the application layer. So okay, so I just thought that might be good just to have a bit of an introduction. So let me then go back. Okay, so here we go. So MQTT fits onto the application layer of the 7 layers OSI. So, and then there are other, kind of protocols too that also do similar things like what MQTT is trying to achieve, doing machine-to-machine device kind of communication, right? AMQP. I think some of you are probably familiar with that. It's also an OASIS kind of standard. DDS, XMPP is a bit more of the other protocol. Also, you can use them for IoT for devices too. Nothing blocks you from that. But they may not be, the right kind of thing for the right job. So you have to always, like doing anything too, you have to understand the nature of your job. What does it require? The goal is to be very efficient and performant for any systems, right? It needs to be like that. So we need to keep in mind the goal and understand the tools, and then basically and understand your requirement, your situation, and then apply the right tool for the right job. That's kind of applies to any discipline, I think. Okay, so all of these things are on this level, and that's what we're talking about MQTT. And then there's also the core platform, which is the IoT, the messaging middleware, and that's where actually an MQTT broker is capable of doing, right? And kind of broker being the kind of the middleware, kind of a bit beyond just the communication protocol side. So as you can see, there are protocol gateway, data aggregation, data storage and filter, all those are in the core platform layer. And then if you kind of go above, and I think there are also lots of folks, if you are kind of getting into computer because of doing a lot of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all those that enables you to do analytics and things like that, right? Those are kind of a bit higher level in terms of the application. You're less dealing with the bits and bytes, so to speak, right? And that's analytics platform that helps you like reports, events, analyzing trends, recommendation engine, and all these things, right? Stream processing, all these analytics kind of, right? Stream processing is interesting. It's a bit more like, I call it more like between the core and between like the analytics, because it is still a lot of the mechanical, technical details in it, but it enables, right, you to like a machine learning situation. You're doing reinforcement learning, supervised learning, something, right? The continuous learning, you need to supply it with the streams of data like that. So, but to this day, I don't think talking about which machine learning kind of streaming, to me, I think it seems like, too, from what I understand, is that most of the time you're doing like batch processing, right? You're kind of taking some data, you stream it in, but usually it's a batch rather than interactive real-time kind of streaming way of doing things. So that will be something kind of interesting to talk about at another time. But I just thought I brought this up. Anyway, then there's cognitive platform, which is kind of more like the voice recognition, a little bit more kind of on the kind of advanced, kind of more kind of like application wise, like more sophisticated like that, interactions, all of these. And then after this, all of this cognitive platform, all of these things is essentially a solutions, right? We're really, what we're trying to do with computers is, essentially we're trying to solve problems, and we try to like, create solutions for our problems. And on the solution level, you are actually picking a variety of different technologies for them to all to kind of work together. So at least now you get an understanding of where MQTT and IoT messaging kind of fits into this general picture, right? Okay. All right. So that's good. So that is introduced a little bit. So let's then talk about what is MQTT. Actually, this as I'm talking to, I think what I should have done, this is just a quick thing to say, is a standard binary publish subscribe messaging protocol designed for fast and reliable data transport, right? It's essentially enabling data to be transported, transmitting between different devices, right? And really the strength of this protocol is that it enables data to be traveling in very uncertain type of situation. What does it mean by that, right? Uncertain meaning, it can be a very constrained type of conditions, right? A network that's very slow, giving you high latency, right? Or kind of, you call it, yeah, I guess as opposed to low latency, is a high latency kind of situation. It can get dropped at any time. So MQTT actually has this built-in capability of guaranteeing the delivery. It has like persistent kind of stateful data support. So then you don't really have to, worry, like fear not, and basically data can be retained, can be managed by the broker. So the broker is the heart of driving, to making MQTT possible, like all the data transport things happening, right? So, okay, so it's all on top of TCP/IP. So we're on the right track, right? I'm talking about TCP/IP. It's really ideal for the Internet of Things. Okay, so I won't talk about this example, but let's kind of take a look. Okay, a brief of history. So let's not worry about it now. I think the history is good to know too. We'll be sharing. Oh wait, what is going on? All right, I didn't kick. Okay, here we go. Not sure why. Sometimes the system acts up. So okay, all right. All right, here we go. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, unless there's something in the back end too. But all right. Not sure why it is like reloading itself, but okay. So like I said, right, there's the history side, which I won't talk about, right? But essentially, if you like to know some, it started in 1999, the protocol itself. And then kind of over time, right, it kind of like, essentially initially was interesting. Actually was developed or designed by an IBM person, IBMer, right, we call it Andy Clark, who's based in the UK at the lab out there, research lab. And he and another partner, Arlen, they actually designed this together because they were working on a project that was dealing with oil data that kind of flowing through like large industrial pipelines, and they were communicating with satellites. So it's actually in some ways too, back in 90s too, networking was also very high latency, not to speak, things were kind of, over 20 years. Well, is it 20 years? Yes, over 20 years ago. So much slower, much constrained. So that was what it was for. And then over time too, right, Hive MQ came into the picture. Eclipse, right, Foundation, the open source project. Well, by the way, too, Hive MQ also, we have a community edition that's free of charge too. So you can always use it at any time you want, right? Download using Docker, however way you want. So we're going to be demonstrating that. And okay, so all of these things, and then essentially too, the world comes to realize we need some kind of standard community together, right? And kind of also to govern and drive it. And that's when essentially the OASIS committee is kind of like adopting this particular protocol, and the technical committee was formed, right, in 2013. And then these are just some kind of like information, that's just so you know. 2014 was MQTT 3.11, and then MQTT 5 was introduced in 2018, and right now Hive MQ4 has the MQTT 5 support. So okay, all right, so won't go into like all of these other details, but I do want to kind of quickly point out too, it uses a publish subscribe model. So now I kind of at the, if you have seen, you look at it, from at my webinar, you already see this. And yeah, and I see a question from AppBoy. Okay, so is MQTT exclusive to IoT devices? That's a really good question, AppBoy. In fact, you are not restricted to using MQTT for IoT devices, but it is definitely designed specifically kind of like the most efficient to use this protocol for IoT devices. So basically, you can have MQTT servicing other things too. Maybe an emulator of some sort. Well, I guess in some ways it's kind of like virtual devices too. And you can think of it like devices, but yes, you do not have to just use it for MQTT for IoT devices. It can be for anything else that that you can find a use for. And again, just remembering that it is really ideal for doing like kind of device to device communication, any kind of communication in a very constrained environment. But you raise a really good question, because even I'm thinking, well, if it's not used for device to device, could there be something else, right? But that will be a bit of an investigation to see how we can use it too for other purposes too. So yeah, that might be something good to do. So yeah, and all right, so here we go. Okay, I was kind of like a little blinking. Okay, all right. So I was just what I was gonna say, right? Even at the webinar, right? I wanted to kind of give you a sense of what it means, right? Having MQTT protocol. Again, it is just a protocol, but in order to make that to work, we need, the crux of it in this IoT MQTT kind of model is the broker. The broker is really the center, the heart, of the whole kind of system. Let's say if you're running an MQTT solution. So what is a broker? So I was kind of comparing this. I was thinking of a good example. I would call it like a post office, right? It's like, okay, you are, think of yourself. Your purpose is to, well, not exactly say publish, but you're trying to send a letter, let's say send a letter. You have a recipient on the other side. And so rather than you kind of delivering your letter over to your recipient, you're going through the post office, right? And most of the time, that's what we do, especially when you have to work with out of town kind of recipients too, right? That's actually more efficient that way, because you want to contact 100 different clients for your mail order service, whatever, right? And you don't want to like go through 100 of your customers by yourself. You're kind of going through kind of an agent, and in this case, it's the post office or some kind of mail service, right? So in some sense, this broker functions just like that. Now, not exactly like a mail service. In that sense, is that in our post office, right? We write the address, right? For example, 123 King Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, something, right? Or kind of writing something to New York, to Airport, you're in New York City. So instead of that address, right? How this MQTT use is it leverage on this concept of a topic. So topic essentially identify the subject, the message of interest, right? We sums it up. It's kind of an abstract way of describing it. Is a topic. So you use the topic as the label for your messages, and then you're allowing to you're trying to be generous. It's not only your letter is not only for you, but basically it's more like, okay, I have this letter. I basically will drop it off at the post office, and then whoever wants it, they can subscribe. And so they have to go through, the kind of a way of doing things. In this case, then subscriber will have to subscribe to that topic that you are trying to do, right? Now, the interesting thing I wanted to point out is in HiveMQ or any kind of like this kind of MQTT protocol is that you actually do not need to create this topic first. The nice thing about it is that you can actually first do a client subscribe. You can subscribe to a topic first. Topic isn't there. So it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And then by the time you try to do a publish, when you publish it, then that's when the topic will get created. So you always then have to, client always has to know who you're subscribing to, right? That part is a slightly different, not exactly like you go into the post office and send your letter, that's what it is. So, okay, now that's that. And so now look a little bit further is that I have this example over here in which, the way it works is that MQTT client, you can be the producer. That's called an MQTT client. You can be a subscriber. That's also called an MQTT client. But of course, then in that case, if you're a publisher, then you'll call a publish client. And then if you're a subscriber, on the other side, you're a client subscriber, right? And that's how it's distinguished. And the command to use too is interesting too, is that it first, right, you have to kind of establish the connection. So it's as simple as kind of basically using the command connect, right? This is the command of how they talk to each other, the client talking to the broker. So you do a connect, and then the broker will then send back an acknowledgement. So it's ACK, right? Kind of like that. So connect acknowledgement. Well, I kind of use ACK to stand for it in here. And then same likewise too. Then if you are subscribing, you're a subscriber client, you just need to send to the broker and a command called subscribe, a sub actually specifically. And so and likewise too, then once you send this message, it's basically the broker has to acknowledge it if you set the quality of service level accordingly. So I will kind of get a bit into this QoS thing shortly too. Okay, so that's that. Now, and then now you're saying, okay, let's subscribe. Then what do we do? Who is producing the messages? So that would be the publisher. So your publisher will have this command called publish, right? Naturally, it's pub, or actually it's PEB, or PUB, sorry, pub. And then basically, in this case, after you publish, and the server, the broker, will then send back and acknowledge. So as you can see, and that's how it kind of like the basic way how you do kind of communication between your client and your broker, like that. And also, one thing to note is that, as you can see, right, there's always this two-sided thing too. It's not like you just send a message and you go away type of thing. It's essentially, it's kind of bi-directional. You have to have client send messages over to the broker, and then the broker then will have to acknowledge or kind of send back the response, or publishing, right, data over to the subscribe, all these things as the other direction too. So that's the kind of thing to kind of think of when it comes to MQTT protocol. Okay, so on the right hand side here is just an example, right? Some example usage, right? Could be as simple as you have a temperature sensor that you want to try to send to your send to your server, some kind of maybe a program running somewhere on a server at your house or something, right? You're trying to also do some monitoring, whatever you're thinking of doing. Then you basically can leverage on an MQTT broker to essentially receive, the data from your temperature sensor somewhere. If you kind of set it outside the house, especially these days, right, in the Midwestern part of the U.S., in much of Northern Hemisphere, right, except if you're in the subtropical or tropical area, I think we're having quite cold winters, right, in the North America too. So okay, so you send your temperature sensor, you basically publish to the broker. And then the broker will basically have this data, but it's up to those who are interested. In this case, you may have have a laptop, then you need that data, then you basically do a subscribe to this topic on the broker, right? The broker has it. So then when the data arrives, then the broker will then distribute, send that pushing on to you, so to speak, right? Well, I guess that will be interesting too. That's something I need to find out, whether it's actually a push model every time. In some ways too, if you have followed me in the past and listening to reactive messaging, reactive streams, they also essentially any kind of data that's kind of like a streaming model is always doing this push and pull kind of model too. So anyway, well, that's a bit of an extra information, but over here you get the idea that I'm interested. I have a mobile device. I can just do a subscribe. I have some apps that essentially do a subscribe to this topic, so I can get weather information, for example. Okay, so that's kind of like a nutshell. And let me then get a bit into the packet level, some data too. Hey, Fusnabo, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. Yeah, and thank you again. Last time it was, if you look at my previous video, it was Fusnabo who came onto my stream too. So in case, I found out I did not, I did not describe it in my stream description because I did not know Fusnabo would be joining. So that's what it is. And boy, I hope you're all well. I almost like forgot to ask you, but it's been like, I think 2 weeks, right, since you got well too. So yeah. Oh, yeah. Fusnabo, thank you. Yeah. So if you joined my stream last time, Fusnabo wanted to join. And likewise, if any of you wants to say something, you want to join my stream, please let me know. I can add you to this stream too, and we can chat too, and you can, be on this stream and talk about things. And Fusnabo is great too. He's very knowledgeable about like licenses, especially the open source, different types of open source licenses. And I thought that was very helpful because otherwise too, I tend not to pay as much attention to it, but there are just so many things. So I like to encourage all of you, if you have things that you want to share, and especially, things that not all of us pay attention to, but like, within 10, 15 minutes, you can tell us a lot of things. And so it saves us the time of researching into things that we normally don't have to deal with. So, okay. AppBoy, yeah, so yeah, that's right. So AppBoy says, so the client can be anything, like Kafka, but more versatility because something doesn't have to be specifically a Kafka consumer. You're found. Yeah, that's right. AppBoy, you got it. Yeah. Some ways too, I was also wondering, like, why, you use, I also question if we can use Kafka to do IoT. You can certainly do that too. It's not impossible because Kafka also employs this, kind of publish and subscribe type of paradigm, right, to do things. However, I believe that Kafka is a bit less of a flexible in that sense. As we all know, Kafka has its own protocol too. It doesn't it isn't, well, it is still ultimately running on top of TCP/IP, but it actually has another layer of their protocol that you're handling, right? And then also how it does partition, right, with all of your clients subscribing. I think that could be an issue because even though these days you can do scalable stuff, but I don't think the way it is, how it's handling things, I think it's more catered for, let's say, in an enterprise a company, right, doing all these like heavier processing, all of these different maybe clients that needs to connect and all these things are a bit more enterprisey kind of level of stuff. I think Kafka is definitely more kind of catered for that, like ERP system, right? Something like that. Versus here, MQTT is really about this quick thing, a Raspberry Pi. You're sending device data up, very quickly. So I think Kafka would not be able to do that. However, given the fact that we live in such a complex world and industry 4.0, right, this concept thing about all of these different tools and libraries and frameworks coming together to create solution, I do see the possibility of us, right? There's some IoT like edge service. So edge service, essentially, you have to have the device being very close to the data center because it helps with the transfer of data quickly, right? So you can actually have MQTT on that side and collect all the data. And then from there, then you can have MQTT have a bridge over to Kafka into your enterprise backend to do more stuff, right? Let's say whatever it is, right? Maybe an oil company, you need to analyze a lot of things or do stuff, whatever it is. Then you can basically have a bridge over and send it over to Kafka. And then from Kafka, then you can kind of do whatever you need to do with your heavier kind of, ERP processing, whatever that could be. So, okay. Yeah, and AppBoy, I'm assuming people don't use Kafka for IoT because it is extremely heavy. Yeah, exactly. That's what. Yeah, you were saying. Exactly. That's very cool. Yeah, I know AppBoy. You're really on top of things. That's wonderful. Okay, and Tomcat Dad. Yeah, and oh, don't worry, Tomcat Dad, and welcome and thanks to coming. Thanks for coming to my webinar today too. I saw you sign on to my Discord. I figure you came from the webinar. So yes, and exactly, that's true. Low CPU network impact is why you are interested in MQTT. That's very cool. Yeah, yeah. And don't worry about being late. This stream is also being recorded. You can watch it later too if you find it to be useful, right? So yeah, that I think you have to come to the right place, Tomcat Dad. I think this type of protocol is definitely catered more for situation in which you just have very limited resources. I think that's where the beauty of this protocol is. So yeah, and as you can see, I'm kind of some sunlight. I think I don't think it's too bright in here. Okay, so I won't kind of worry about closing the curtains. Actually, I like it when the warm sun comes through because we are very cold outside. And by the way, let me see the temperature. Okay, so in terms of Celsius, right now outside my house is minus 13, so 13 below zero. So it's Celsius, right? Talking about which, okay. I think for Fahrenheit, let me take a quick look. Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is 9 degrees Fahrenheit and it's minus 13 Celsius. So it is very, very cold. So I enjoy having some sunlight through my thing. Oh yeah, 10. I think Fusnabo. Very close. That's a really cool. Yeah, that's right. So it is very cold outside. I just stepped outside for a little bit trying to get mail. My hands were frozen, kind of. And also too, by the way, in Chicago here too, because of the geography of Chicago, we're kind of in the middle of the country, and they're like cold, like Arctic air coming from the Canadian side, right? The Arctic, I should say, not Canada. Canada itself isn't as cold as the Arctic. Arctic air blows through, and then we also are in the middle, so the southern part is warmer and then comes through. So I think that clashing between the warm and the cold, we have really drastic weather all the time, almost, and anytime you find there's wind chill, there's some sort of wind, and that's why Chicago is also nicknamed Windy City, right? So, well, if you are not in Chicago, and if you are coming to Chicago, let me know. Yeah, and then I can show you around. So that's very cool. Yeah, Fusnabo. Yes, last few days has been kind of warm in Norway. Really, that is surprising. 32. So 32 is like 0 Celsius, which is considered warm, by our standard. Oh yeah, that is very cool. Actually, you know what? I work with. If you were at my webinar, right? Ian actually is the vice president of marketing, and he's actually based in Ontario, Canada. So it's north of me. I think they have been even colder. He was telling me one morning at some meeting, he was saying that they had like minus 29 Celsius. So I look up, there's minus 17 for Fahrenheit. So that is very cold. But I don't think they get as much like wind up there as it is in Chicago. So even though the effect of the cold is about the same, I would imagine. But okay, so let me kind of go on, and I'm just going to explain a bit about the packet, right? So essentially, as we know, when we deal with networking, right, it's to me, I think it's fun, but some people find it a little too much details. But let's just talk about it too. I think it might be good too. So okay, I don't know if the music is a little too loud. I'm finding myself, I don't know why it's so loud in here. So I should kind of drawn down a little bit so it won't be so loud for me. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look, right? So again, in any kind of MQTT, we're talking about the commands, right? There are different commands. So first and foremost, is the connect command. So what does it do in the connect? So as you can see, like pictorially, we have a client over here. So the client will send a connect to the broker. So the broker, when it's actually received and acknowledge it, it has to send back a kind of packet back, right? So let's examine this content, right, in some details. And so if you look at it, the connect will carry with it the client ID, and also like a field called clean session. And then also optional like username and password, all of these things. And then there's also this thing called last will topic. Why does it? I don't know why. Sometimes my system is way too, way too, when I touch on my touch bar, it would change. And so, okay, I won't touch it. So last will topic, and then last will QoS stands for the quality of service. So I can describe a little bit too. So okay, and then there's last will message, and then the last will retain, and then the keep alive, right? And then so basically it sends this over to the broker, and broker will have to send back if it gets it all right, then comes back with a return code of 0, and also saying that the session has been established, so it would be true, right? So that's the packet that you get back. So okay, so maybe then let's kind of take a little bit further look, because into this last will thing, I find it kind of to be quite interesting. And normally too, I guess unless if you have worked a lot with like messaging too. Usually, maybe you don't have to worry about as much of these things. But let's talk. So let's talk about it, right? So let's look into the will. So will is kind of, think of a person, right? It's kind of almost like the client represent a person. I'm here. I'm in a session, but I don't know when I will die, right? So in order to kind of make sure what I have gets retained or preserved, right? So we can basically, the client can define this thing called last will and testament. So it kind of functions kind of like us, when we go to the lawyer and set up like like a will, so to speak, right? Something that you dictate what to do if I pass away, kind of thing. So then who manages it? In this case, it would be the broker. So that's why too, in MQTT protocol, the broker is the crux of kind of everything. He or she, whatever it, is the thing that ties together and making sure everything works. So essentially too, the client, if it kind of for some reason it goes away, some networking, whatever, the program clash, then basically too, the client has to kind of indicate this beforehand. So in the packet itself, then it will be laying out this thing, right? Last will topic, what topic it is for, right? And what quality of service. So quality of service essentially kind of help with identifying how much of a guarantee you want for the service, for the messages to be delivered, right? So 0, I will talk about it in shortly, but 0 is the most relaxed and fastest, but yet less reliable, right? Least reliable. And then QoS 1, it's more reliable, but you can allow duplicate messages to the way it's set up. And then QoS 2 is essentially exactly once. So it takes a longer time, but it really, the guarantee level is very high, very reliable, and it's looking like that. So that's what it is. And then you can then have to specify your last will message too. So essentially some sort of payload in here, right? The message itself that carries, in this case, you can say unexpected exit or whatever you want. And then there's also this keep alive kind of value to indicate that how long you want this message to be kept alive, like that. So okay, so that's a will, last will testament. And then there's a publish subscribe. We already talked about it, but let's notice too is that well, it would still be interesting to take a look at publish and subscribe packet, because as you look into it, right, publish will contain the packet ID, the topic name, and the quality of service kind of indicator, which level. And as you know too, each client has this field, and so basically too, or at least from what I know, is that you have this, think of it, it's kind of like a chain of messages traveling through. From what I know is that I think the last quality of service will override whatever you said before if they are not equal. Or actually, I should say whatever gets the lowest level, and that's what will be used. So if I'm using a 0, that probably will be the default for the whole chain of messages. As it's kind of travel across different points, right? So okay, so that's that. And so over here, that's what a publish message will contain in the packet, right? So retain flag and the payload and the dupe flag. Now on the subscribe side, the packet is interesting because you can have subscribe actually essentially to have multiple topics too that are specified within the same packet. And in this case, you can have multiple different topics. You can have a multitude of topics too. I need to find out exactly how many topics as far as the max number of topics is concerned. So I'll find that out for you. So, and then for each topic too, you also want to specify the quality of service in here. So that's the pub sub packet ID, what it looks like. So, okay. And okay, so here we go. There's another interesting kind of a feature, right, of this kind of a message, right? That how the broker will help with. Basically, this thing is called retained message. So what happened is that your client, it's also like control on the client side. So if you recall, right, maybe let me go back to here, or is it like the connect? Can't connect over here. Retained. Where is it? Actually, interesting. I thought there was also a retained message, but maybe okay. Okay, here we go. Publish, right? Sorry. So it's actually on the pub sub client that command. So you see it like a retain flag. So this retain flag, right, is essentially what we want to talk about here. So essentially, it is a last known good value. So basically, too, is that you want to deliver some message, and that's the last known good value. And instead of, normally what would happen is that if it, you finish a job, you deliver, the broker delivered the message, and you're done. Your job is done. The message will be removed, right, or be deleted, marked for deletion. So what you can do is that this feature allows the client to say, well, I want to retain the message. I don't want you to throw it away, kind of like that. And so on the broker side is that then the broker realized that, okay, I kind of delivered this message and the client tells me to retain it, so I will retain it. The purpose of such is interesting too, because then you get future clients that are trying to connect to this topic. They will also be, if they subscribe to the same topic, they will actually also be receiving this last known good value too, that's being retained by whoever delivered this get or kind of whoever the client was, let's put it that way. So that's what essentially it is. And sometimes you may wonder, even I was wondering, then what's the good of it? But I think what happened is that it would save time, because if you have a retained message and that sometimes to certain information, you don't want to waste time for the broker to kind of fetch it again or do whatever, like initializing, so to speak, right? Any kind of client establishment, you need to do certain kind of thing to initialize it. And this way you save time, because rather than worrying about how you can start up again, you basically kind of just fetch the message that was kind of being retained from the previous delivery. So that's what it is. So okay, so that's kind of in a nutshell what that is. And then also, right, MQTT has this very important key feature is called the quality of services, QoS, right? So again, I briefly touch upon QoS 0. It means at most once delivery. And this one, think of it more like a fire and forget type of delivery situation. You publish the message, you actually do not care if the broker actually gets it or not, then that's the idea. Now, if we go back to the packet too, let me kind of go back here. Is it here? Okay. Yeah, here we go. Actually, I should say publish. I should go to publish. So yeah, so over here too, if you look into here, right, it's even has kind of like a gray out line that says it's always 0 for QoS 0. So that's why it is. That's why, because it's a fire and forget. You really do not require the broker to send you back any acknowledgement. So it would be used in cases that you sometimes do not worry so much about about the reliable delivery. Even if you miss some, delivery, miss the messages, is okay. And that's the idea. And so because of this, then the delivery, everything this level tends to be very efficient, right? Because it just sends it and all done, kind of like that. So, okay, let me go back to the quality of service. So the quality of service one is basically at least once delivery. So this one is interesting too, because let me just kind of go over here, kind of use this packet to kind of like indicate. So if you're doing like quality of service one, you do a publish, right? And you publish to your broker. Quality this level, then the broker will then send back a publish like acknowledgement. So the pub ack in this case. So if you look into the packet, you see the packet ID and then the topic name and the QoS1, retain flag, blah, 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 payload, all these things. And basically, the broker will send back a pub ack, and the packet ID will then indicate, okay, I'm acknowledging this packet. And that's all is needed. Now, in this case, too, it means, too, is that you can also have duplicate messages in this case, the way it is set up, because then you're kind of allowing like multiple receiving on the broker side too. And so if in cases too, sometimes you don't worry about, kind of having duplicate messages. Maybe in some cases you're doing some sort of monitoring, you're kind of doing some kind of cumulative type of reporting, based on some cumulative data or something, and you don't care about repeating, then this might be a good kind of level to use too, because it does guarantee, but you may get duplicate and you don't really worry about it. So that's what it is. Okay. And now let's go to the QoS2. So this one is actually exactly once. So meaning that no more, no less. I only wanted one. That's it. So in this case too, as you can see, the arrows, on the command is actually more steps in this case, and you can tell too, it's the least performant in this case, but it guarantees, it's the most reliable level. So in some cases in which you only accept data to be delivered once, and this is what you need to be using, maybe some medical equipment, that maybe something to measure, the kind of like a heartbeat or something, right? Or whatever it does, maybe then it will trigger some other action. So you don't want the messages to be delivered more than once, because it's gonna like skew that reading, and it will produce like wrong reading in a medical kind of testing situation, right? So that would be more like a QoS2, but it just will take a bit more time in this whole operation. But let's then take a look into the packet level, right? So basically, client wants to do send a packet of publish QoS2, and then over here, right, all these things. And basically, first, the broker gets it, and then we'll send back a pub rec. Right? So it's kind of like recording it to send back the packet ID. And then basically on the packet then coming back from the client side will then have this PubRail. It's kind of like releasing it now. Well, in some sense, I call it, I forgot exactly what REL is, but that's what it is, that packet. So it indicates that packet ID is sort of like, in some ways, it's acknowledging the broker of first receiving it too. So it's kind of like a bit redundant, so to speak. It's like handshaking. You just shake hands and keep shaking, kind of like that. And then basically, too, once you do this, then the broker finally says, okay, great, is kind of received and is completed. So it sends back a pub comp and indicating this packet ID. So as you can see, takes a bit more time. Okay, so these are kind of like the core features of MQTT, and that's a version of 3.1.1. So, and I want to kind of point out too, MQTT essentially has two major versions that are in use right now. And Hive MQ actually has the version 4 that's actually supporting MQTT V5 as well. So that's what it is. And so MQTT 3 will have what I described just now. These are really like core features of the MQTT 3.1.1. It's very basic, very core, very essential type of features. Now, in MQTT 5, right, and let's kind of, without going into all the details, we can talk about it some more, but I'll just give you a hint. Maybe when we get more into that, because it's a bit more of an advanced kind of topic, and I don't want to spend too much time. This isn't really a presentation. So just want to kind of point out, these are successor of MQTT 3.1.1. They are not backward compatible. But the nice thing about Hive MQ is that you can have the same broker that actually can service either version of your publish and subscribe client too. And that's the also beauty of Hive MQ too. It can deal with different versions. So that's nice. And then, okay, so essentially, to sum up, there are many features and is basically an enhancement to the 3.1.1 specifications. So, and basically, the main goal of this version 5 is essentially to kind of scale for scalability and large scale systems, and it helps with improve like error reporting. And it formalized a lot of common patterns, right, including the capability discovery and request response. It essentially too not just pops up. It has what is called like a request response kind of pattern also supported. However, it isn't what you think of the typical HTTP style of request and response, and we can spend more time talking about it later. But otherwise, too, what it's actually good at is that it helps with making correlation of your request and response, and that's what essentially is trying to service, right? And that's this pattern. What this pattern is good at, coming from MQTT 5. Okay, so there are also extensibility mechanisms. You can have user level properties in your meta header information, and really essentially a performance improvement and overall, a lot more support for smaller clients. So that's what it is. So all right. So with that, then let me turn into demo, because the rest too are just more into the MQTT 5 and then something like all of the use cases and all that. And if you're interested, I can show this later too. But I think it's not really a presentation. So let me kind of get back. Okay. So here we go. So what I'm going to show that is for you to sign up with the HiveMQ Cloud. And I only talk about free stuff. So these are like all HiveMQ Cloud. We have a free tier access, so anybody can try it out too. So okay, but first of all, let me bring over my this guy over here, HiveMQ, and hold on a second. And also too, by the way, HiveMQ isn't for just what you call it, for by itself. It's actually a such a flexible protocol, and the broker is so to speak, very flexible. And if you kind of follow me in the past about talking about reactive architecture, in some ways, right, all of these functional style, kind of, so to speak, functional style, asynchronous processing, event-driven type of paradigm is so nice. It really allows you to get connected with other things, other frameworks, other platforms, streaming platforms easier. And I know, yeah, we talk about Kafka. So for example, yeah, there is like Kafka integration with HiveMQ, and other brokers do also have it with their broker, say with Kafka, their MongoDB, any kind of database integration. And also too, well, I was kind of excited because yesterday at the Java Champions Conference, I hosted Josh Long. So if you are a Java person and you are aware of Spring, right? Spring framework is being used by so many folks like yourselves, if you're a Java person. And basically too, Spring also has support for MQTT through the HiveMQ plugin too. So stay tuned. I will be announcing as to when Josh and we will be doing a Twitch stream together, and he's gonna come and show how you can use Spring with MQTT too. So we're trying to set this up like a session for this. So really, please stay tuned for that. And another thing is that Josh himself, he has a podcast too. So he said, basically Twitch, we can do example, but for the podcast, on his podcast, we're going to be talking about things. So I think that should be really good. So something to just kind of let you know ahead of time. So, okay, here we go. And not about this. And by the way, this is the cathedral in Montreal. So if you're in Montreal, I went there actually for the light show. If you ever go to Montreal, or if you're Montreal, you're probably familiar with it. So yes, that's right. App Boy. Yeah, I will have a stream with Josh Long. Yes, exactly. Because like I said, right, we both presented at Java Champions Conference, and then he did his yesterday, and we both were talking. Hey, why don't we do something? So he said he wants to come onto my stream, and then he invited me to the to his podcast too. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's really fun too. He talks so fast. If you follow him, he's like doing all his demo. Most of the time he's doing demos, and which is really amazing. I'm learning from him too, so I have to kind of say, okay. But anyway, so welcome to HiveMQ Cloud, right? So let me give you, actually, you know what? Let me do this one thing. I think I need to give you the, here we go. Okay, I need to give you the thing. Actually, you know what? Let me look at the toolbar, then I can send that to you. So this is a HiveMQ free tier sign up, right? Oh, actually, it's HiveMQ Cloud. This is the cloud tier. I'm not being very. Oh, okay. Sign up. So I just sent it to you on the chat there. But let me also do this one thing. Is okay. So did I add that? It's not showing up on my stream. I wanted to share with you the Hive MQ. Okay, here we go. Okay, it should show. So, okay, so this is the link, right, where you can get to this page of signing up for the Hive MQ Cloud free tier. And it may take you like a minute or two. It really shouldn't take that long. It's basically you just sign in, and then also it will set you up for the SSL kind of credentials part too. So it shouldn't take you too long. But in the meantime, yeah, take your time right now. But let me then, because I've already set things up, so let me kind of go ahead a little bit. But otherwise too, you can do sign up now. Okay, sometimes this is taking longer. I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. Let me kind of make this a little bigger so you can see better too. Okay, so in this case, right, because I have already signed in, so then you are seeing things in here. Now, if you haven't, and let me really quickly show that to you. Maybe you're already there. Just wanted to make sure folks will know. Oh, you know what? Can I do that? Yeah. Okay. So if you haven't already signed up, then look at here, right? Then you will be presented this Hive MQ Cloud portal. So from there, you can sign up, with your GitHub. You can do the single sign-on thing with GitHub or with Google, or you can just create your new login and password credentials. So, okay, so this is that, and okay, and then here we go. So now, assuming that you have already done it, then you should be signing up and get everything set up. Then basically you have your cluster. So in my case, I've already got my cluster up, and it has the URL and the status. So this is really cool. That means you can kind of essentially you spin up your cluster in a very short amount of time. So you can then test drive this, right? So we would like to encourage you to do that too. Right now, actually, we don't have any swags or anything, but I like to ask to see, if you can get some swag, that would be nice, right? And hopefully, and I'm kind of having some sunlight over here, so I would sit back a little bit. Okay. All right. So over here, when you get to your cluster, right? So you can kind of go and do manage cluster. Okay. So look at my cluster detail, right? So it shows you what my host name is, and then the port, right? It is running TLS, and over here too. Interesting. There's also a WebSocket TLS kind of port listening too, and that one actually it has we have like a built-in kind of easy to use WebSocket client. So that's something I'll kind of bring it to you shortly, or you probably will discover it. In my particular case, I'm choosing AWS, so it really doesn't matter. You can use Azure or you can use AWS. So and over here too, as you can see, this test cluster, you can have up to 100 client sessions and up to 10 gigabytes. And then the retention time, you get 3 days, and the maximum message size is 5 meg. So, and of course you can upgrade. Then there are different like tier levels that you can kind of look into too. So that's that. Okay, so now how do we test it, right? So let's take a look. Access management. So in my particular case, I've already added my credential. So that should be part of your first step as you're signing into, right? So if you have it, then you should be able to set it up. Then you should be able to see you being listed, having the active MQTT credentials, right? And you can also set up new ones too, as as you like to. So that's pretty cool. And then there's also this thing called getting started. That's where you can kind of start to kind of explore with it, right? We completed the first step, and now you can then connect your first MQTT client to test things out, right? So over here, it's actually quite cool. I find this, right? Some of these things, you can click on it, like say MQTT client, then it will connect you to the page and kind of also a short video to show you how you can actually try things out on the client, using the client too. Now, this particular example here, oh, okay, so it does have actually different operating systems, the major ones, right? Mac OS or Windows or Ubuntu or RPM package too for Linux, right? And then how do you subscribe it? So all of these things can be done quite quickly, right? It shows it to you already. You can kind of quickly try it. Um, in my particular case, I have actually installed this, but let's not go this route. Let's do this one thing. So again, you are please spend some time like trying this out. But for us, right, just to kind of get to more stuff in here, as you can see too, you can also use the MQTT.fx GUI tool or the socket client. That's what we're going to look at shortly. And then otherwise, there's also Eclipse as the Mosquito PubSub command line tool. You can also try that. Or there's also Arduino ESP8266. So this part is interesting. Now, that's something I'm going to try out and I need to order is the ESP32 microcontroller board. So that's something, and the Arduino too. So I'm kind of in the process of getting all of these things set up. I'm hoping to be able to then set it up in here and do some demos, in some future episodes. So stay tuned for those and that. And then, okay, so now that's another beautiful thing, right? When you're doing PubSub, I just like it so much. You basically, to me, I really think sometimes messaging systems is a little bit kind of not as intuitive, so to speak, right? Because it's just how we learn to code. It's more synchronous style. But the thing is, doing messaging is actually more a natural way that mimics how we operate. So anyway, why I'm bringing this up is that, as you can see, we support programming languages of most kinds, right? And I don't think they actually have everything here. Now, if you go to the other getting started page and some examples, there are actually more programming languages and clients you can do too. There's like Android client or Paho. There's this one Eclipse project called Eclipse Paho, is essentially allow you to basically build MQTT clients using the Eclipse Paho framework, and it supports a multitude of different languages. So let's kind of quickly take a look. So Eclipse Paho. PAHO. So, okay, the Eclipse Foundation, Eclipse Paho. Okay, so this would be the project, right? So let me kind of quickly kind of show that to you here. The okay, okay. So that's the Paho, website. So you can take a look into this. Let me kind of make it bigger too. Let's see if I can do it a little bigger. Okay, okay. So yeah, you can also take a look into this. Over here, right? This is great. This is all open source, right? And like the different support of different languages is pretty cool too. You can have Paho Java client, Paho JavaScript, Python. Okay, so if you're doing .NET too, actually they have also C# client, I believe. So documentation, right? Let's see. Over here, project details and plans, right? I think over here. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is just more of the project management level, but maybe the project wiki. So, okay, so yeah, so if you want to visit this, let me kind of make it slightly bigger. It has a wiki page, all of these things. So basically, over here, quick start guide is what I try to look at. Why is it not? Okay, anyway, this is kind of funny. All these things. Okay, here we go. I think, okay, all of these too, there are different like presentations and events too. But I thought there might be a page that actually will describe the different kind of clients that you can use, the different languages too. But you know what? I think it is. So let's go to, okay, by the way, this is HiveMQ and Spring Framework too. Well, I have yet to work on actually testing the integration because, like I said, right, when Josh comes, we're going to talk more about Spring and HiveMQ too. So, but for now, this is also a page. It's a little bit older, this article, so I have to kind of test this out. But other than that, I wanted to quickly show MQTT. Let's see, getting started documentation. I think it's in the getting started page. So, yeah, that's right. So over here, right, the Enterprise MQTT Broker. Okay, it describes about broker, but there's also a page on all of the clients too, and that's what I'm trying to get at. But it might be like resources instead. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. Getting started. Well, wait a second. I think it's getting. I thought that getting started would give you that. Let me take a look. Installation, listener. I guess I still haven't got to the coding part, so let me kind of get busy. But in any event, you know what I'll do? I'll look at this a little bit more, and maybe you can find it too. So rather than wasting your time, so yeah, so it's funny too. And as such, right, I'm working for Hive MQ, which is based in Germany. If you're curious, in the Bavaria region, right? And funny how people were like teasing. And even I have German friends that actually my German colleague was saying that in Germany people are very efficient. So if you are from Germany, you can kind of talk about that too. So yeah. So yeah, let me kind of make sure. App Boy. Oh yeah, yeah. You're interested in using Arduino. Yes, it is. Yeah. So it might be good, App Boy. If you get it working, maybe we can kind of do a session together and you can show, your project too. But in the meantime, too, I'm also trying to get this ESP32 that's supposed to work very well within the Arduino IDE. So I'm kind of looking into that. So maybe we should definitely exchange notes. For me, I think I have just too much interest, but just not enough time. So we'll work on that. Okay. But in the meantime, I've been promising you, right, for doing things, especially those of you who already sat through my webinar. So over here, I said let's do the WebSocket client, right? So here we go. So this thing is actually pretty cool. But if you kind of click on this one, right? So let me kind of go back to see how you can get here, right? So if you remember, you go into your cluster, and then from the cluster, there are three kind of menu items up top. So basically, if you go to getting started here, we'll have the Hive MQ WebSocket client. So you want to click on that because the thing is to, oops, wait, I'm so sorry. Somehow it bounced back in here. So over here is that it will give you instruction about what to do, how you can quickly publish to a Hive MQ cloud instance and everything. So this page is only the instruction. How do you subscribe and everything? You can do that quickly without command line. So that's the idea of this WebSocket client. But now, when it comes time for you to ready to do, then you go to step one, which is click on it to get to your specific client for your instance. And so you should be able to see this. Let me kind of extend it. Oops. Actually, let me. Okay. Okay. So I think this should be good. So as you can see now, what you will see in your case, if you are following along, your host will have different, right? Because it will be connecting to your particular instance. But in my case, I have this one is pre-populated for you. When you click on that link, and the port number is 8884, and that's the WebSocket TLS port, right? Listening to things, and it assign you a kind of like a generated client ID. And then in my particular case, my username and then my password is already entered. It's just not shown here. We're using SSL and keep a life of 60 seconds and a clean session. Clean session, essentially, by the name as such, is that it's all clean, meaning that it's, the state itself is fresh. You don't have any, kind of previously kind of dangled type of data that will interfere your results kind of thing. So, okay, now over here, we're not going to do the last will topic yet, but last will, but you can also test it. Now, in order to kind of quickly test it, you can just go to the publish. And then basically too, this will be kind of interesting because we're publishing to a topic. The topic is a default name. You basically will be receiving other people's messages too if they are testing using the same topic. So let's take a look. Okay, here we go. Let's just do the QoS 0, which means this is 0 meaning I just fire and forget. We want it a little bit quicker. And let me then also hide these things, and then you can see this. Okay, so it's not retained and everything. So now, let's also do the subscription part too. So we add new subscription in our case. So now we want to listen to any topic that starts with the hierarchy is test topic /pound, meaning anything, right? Underneath there's a wildcard thing. So in this case, on my subscription side, I can specify 2. But the thing is that it will default to the lowest one in your chain. So in this case, it would be 0. So let's take a look. Let's take these value. Oh, it says it's not connected. Of course, because guess what? I didn't click on this magic button, connect. So connect it first. And so that's what's needed. And I think it's refused. It's not authorized. Oh, okay. Oh, because I do need to. I thought it's just like, okay. And no problem. So let me enter my credential. Let's do the connect. Here we go. So all green, all connected, all good. So now let's kind of do it like hello Twitch. friends, right? Let's also then subscribe to this first. So then we should be able to see messages, right? So let's publish. Here we go, right away. Yeah. So that's pretty cool, right? Okay, now if you want to try, I should be able to actually get messages from you as well if you're running it. If you're also publishing to test topic /1 2, because they are all, I believe most of them should be underneath the same kind of cluster. So I think the test topic applied to the whole cluster too. Because I have had like tests that I was doing that I realized I'm getting other messages. Where did they come from? But I realized it was from other clients that happen to be referring to the same topic, right? Or kind of like the hierarchy test topic and then something else, right? So that's what it is. So okay, so now you can try to also like send some messages. Maybe I should be able to see some of your messages too, if you want to do that. And then let's do something else. So I can just let's do a 2. I think that, well, the 2 should also be kind of doing the same thing, but we will notice it might take a little bit of time, right? So hello again. I'm using QoS 2. Use 2, and then my subscription size already doing 2. So this should be, oh, actually it's quite fast as well. But it all depends, right? How busy it is. So basically you get the idea. So you can basically use this to test your topic, your publishing kind of quickly to see how things work too. So okay, so that's that. Now, of course, this is kind of like an easier way of doing things. It just is on a GUI that's already been pre-designed for you. The thing is too is that you can also do things using if you're programmatically inclined, right? Like sometimes I am too. I like to see how a program does things. And I know the last time we tried something out, and Futsnapper was here with me, and he gave some really good kind of help too. And let's take a look, right? And let me kind of go over here. Not here. Where is it? Where's my? Okay, here we go. Let's go back, go in here now. So, okay, and by the way, too, before I forget to, you can download this MQTT and MQTT 5 Essentials book. So let me share that with you, right? Okay, so here we go. Well, actually, let me move it over here so you can see it, okay, right? So let me give that link to you or see how you can get it too before I forget. Sometimes I tend to like forget. And let's go back to our HiveMQ website. And there's also, I believe it's developer, is it documentation, or let's go to resources. I think it should be here. Oh yeah, here we go. So you can basically go to the this page, right, the developers page, and then download the Essentials book. Okay, so all you need to do is just give your name, right, and just some small things. Yeah, you will be receiving, I have to kind of admit, you will be receiving some information, but I promise you those information will be useful things. We don't try to like be too annoying, so to speak, right? Okay, so let me kind of give this link to you, because if you're interested, right, you should kind of read up on that too. So let me kind of share with you. So MQTT Essentials. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. So you can see the link is here, and let me also then share with you too. Re-download, right? Okay, so I've also posted it onto the chat dialog. So yeah, so please feel free to get that. And just that before I forget, I wanted to share this with you. So, okay, so that's that. Now, the thing is, the next thing we can try, yeah, it seems familiar. Yeah, did you read it, Tom? Tom, get that? Yeah, have you already downloaded? Yeah, but I think it is very good. You can kind of quickly read through it. It's well written and very clear too. I found it to be very useful because I actually, the time when I started learning about MQTT was like the last week of last year, right? Because I knew I would be joining the new company and I'd be doing this. So I started reading it. And in fact, I read through the Essentials book. It was really good. However, then I forgot about it and I started working, right? And because if you don't use it, you forget. But just like anything else, you read it again, it's kind of like, pretty, it becomes more clear. Yeah. So, and like I said, having a community, having a source of places like this, I'm hoping to do more Twitch sessions and also get some of our engineers as well as like external folks like Josh and to come and talk about how they can integrate with HiveMQ, and that's my goal too. So I'm hoping to have that set up fairly soon. At least I think with Josh we might be able to do this session, within a month or so. So all right. And Tomcat Dad, yeah, don't worry about it. If you want to, you are welcome to download this essential book. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's that. So so that was good. And I just want to share with you. And in this case too, then let's kind of get a bit busy. I'll just put things kind of side by side here. And let me not kind of maximize my screen, because sometimes if I maximize my screen, then I don't get access to the menus. So I hope this is okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So here we go. So first of all, right, in order to for you to try out a server, there are multiple ways, but the fastest way, let me give it to you. And there's a page to, if you go to the getting started, it will actually give that information to you too. So let me do this one thing. Let me kind of let me hide this thing. Okay. So back to here. I hope you can you see okay? I'm trying to look into my, yeah, my Twitch is looking fine. So you let me know too, in case, the resolution isn't good. Like I said, earlier with the webinar, I was told it was a little blurry. So again, I can make this slightly bigger too, maybe. Okay. Maybe making slightly bigger, right? Okay. All right. So, okay. So what we would do here is you can, I already have this command, and you just need to, okay, I'm realizing it is, okay, I can't actually scroll it up, but let me do this one thing because of the label in here. Okay, so I hope you can see this, and let me kind of close this because it's blocking me, my view. Okay, so essentially that's what you need to do, is doing a Docker and then run -p 8080 :8080, and then basically the port forwarding to, and we're using 1883 for the server listening port. And then you just need to say HiveMQ/HiveMQ4 in this case. So I can kind of quickly send that to you on the chat there. Then you can have it too. Okay. To start the sample HiveMQ server broker. Okay, so I sent you that command. So if you kind of, from the arrow part, the Docker one. So if you want to give that a try, it should not require you to install the HiveMQ. However, I have already installed the client, or the HiveMQ download, right? So if you have trouble, I suggest that you may need to install that. That part I have never clearly kind of clarify with the engineering team. And I was then later talking with someone. They said, yeah, it's not needed. You just need bring up your Docker. And of course, if you use the Docker version, you need to have Docker desktop running too. So then that will work, right? Okay. All right. And another requirement is that in my particular case, I'm going to be using a JavaScript client. So I would like to suggest that if you're trying this route, right, and you need to install NPM and Node too. So you can go to Node and install that, and install the LTS version. So let me also give that to you if you're interested. So let me do this Node. Let me kind of do this here. Google. So you can go to Node, install. Right. So download Node.js. So this particular one will also then install the LTS version, is what I was kind of trying to refer to, is this guy, and then you pick your particular platform, right? So, okay. It's just FYI for those of you who haven't installed and would like to follow along. So Node.js, Node.js install LTS. So, okay, so that's that. Okay, so that's just a bit of a prerequisite of information. Okay, so once you get this set up, essentially too, right? You have Docker, right? That's also required. Then you should be able to just say, run this command. And then this would take a minute or so to bring up your server, essentially your MQTT broker, right? So. Okay. Sometimes it's just slower than others. Sometimes too, it could come up really fast, so you can't tell. And they do tend to be a bit of a temperamental. So, okay. Okay, so these are trial license. It's all free kind of usages. So, okay, okay. Okay, it says it's not secure, but that's okay for kind of demo purpose. So here we go. Started, right? My Hive MQ is started in 33,995 milliseconds. So it's a little bit long too, I'd say, but let's we'll worry about it later. And it's actually talking about which I was kind of thinking of having HiveMQ actually running in an Open Liberty runtime, right? If you were following me earlier with cloud native Java development, Open Liberty, you can actually launch it into a Raspberry Pi 2 or something like that. So that is a bit of an ambitious project. I'd like to try that out. And also there's Quarkus too, right? From Red Hat. In fact, my friends over at Red Hat, they have actually play around too with Quarkus and then running MQTT. And so I actually would like to also invite the Red Hat folks to come over here and talk about MQTT running in Quarkus too. So if you're ever interested in that, please do kind of stay tuned and follow me. And then, I promise, I will have these interesting kind of, interviews and kind of demos be shown to you from the other experts from the other company as well. Okay, so here we go. Let's then now go to my, this thing here. Actually, you know what? Let me use, well, I was told that it's actually better to use the white color. So let me kind of do that. Let me kind of make it a little bigger. Okay. All right. So here we go. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So this is actually an example, a demo that I downloaded too. Is the MQTT.js, and let me also give it to you too, because I'm sure you may be interested too, right, in this example. And again, this also came from our documentation there. But let me give you quickly the. I have to kind of go back here. Sorry, go back in here, and that's the GitHub. No. This one, see, this is the IoT Edge development using Quarkus from Daniel. I did a presentation with him on Kubernetes, right? And so he gave this to me. He said, "Oh, wow, you're working with that." And he plays around with Quarkus using IoT Edge. So I'll share that with you later. But okay. This one is the Arduino. I found something on ESP8266 Arduino. So we'll also kind of target, have some target to work on that. And then this guy, no, this is Comesh. It's something else. It's for my Comesh. I need to upload my example. So, okay, not call for papers. Okay, I actually got too much stuff right now, isn't it? You know what? Let's go back in here. Getting started. I'm sorry. Sometimes I got too many things and then ended up not able to find it. And how did I get that one? That's kind of funny. You know how it is when you first learn about something, there's just so much stuff, and then you have come across that and you just cannot remember. And because these days, right, we may not remember to save things, and that's what it is. So okay, and if you bear with me for a second, let me try to find that for you. This is the cloud community edition. Like I said, right, there's community edition. That's probably something that you would like if you want to work with open source, right? So this one is the community version for HiveMQ. So let me also share. Just wanted to make sure that you know about it too. So HiveMQ community edition. Now, the thing to point out is that if it's open source version, we just don't, for open source version, we do not support the console and also a lot of the observability, some of the other support. But there's actually, if you want to do some sort of just the functioning, basic kind of functional stuff, it's all there, right? If you want to use the MQTT 3.11 features, it is all there. It also supports the MQTT 5 too, right? Don't get me wrong. So, okay. And also a note to point out is that there's also the newest thing is that we have HiveMQ test containers. So if you are like a Java developers as such, right? I think some of you probably have been working with test containers, and they're really helpful in testing your apps, in Kubernetes and in a containerized environment. So test container from Atomic Jar, right? So they are becoming more popular now with kind of integration level kind of testing. So HiveMQ actually has that now. So it will make your testing also a joy, right, so to speak, because then a lot of things too, it would kind of take care of things for you, all of your devices and things like that. There are emulators and stuff like that, right? I haven't got a chance yet to use it, but the thing is that this test container feature kind of fairly new, so just wanted to kind of point out to you so you can use that too, and the client and everything. So again, right over here, right, it tells you what you have, right, and then if you go over here, other additions, and that's what I wanted to show you, the different additions, right? If you're kind of saying that, well, I don't want to pay for it, then what do I get, right? So over here, as you can see, right, the enterprise version will have the control center, which is actually is very nice because the control center, right, over here, and that's what it is. Let me quickly show you the control center in here. It's basically localhost, I think is it 8080, right? Okay, here we go. So basically, too, when you bring up your the Docker, when I ran the Docker command to bring up your free tier Hive MQ server broker, essentially, too, that this also gives you access to this. This is a trial version, so I can use this and say admin and MQTT. Oops, is it MQTT? Hive MQ. Sorry. So, okay, this I can also make it bigger. So this is pretty cool too. It gives you a dashboard too. So essentially too, this is trial version, so I can have it. But the thing is, yeah, if you pay for it, then you will have more permanent kind of connection to it. So yeah, let's see. Fußnapel, what did you see? Bug, some a bug lurking for 12 years gives attackers root on every major Linux distro. Really? Wow. And let me kind of, okay, this is Fustabu sent this out. Okay, maybe let's take a look, and thank you for sharing. Is it related to HiveMQ at all, this, or maybe this might, right? Oh wait, it's actually on Linux distro. I'm so sorry, I thought somehow well, okay, so this is brand new. That's interesting. Well, we let's look at it, or should we kind of, yeah, we can take a detour and just quickly kind of, wait, I'm sorry. I meant to say I click on this and then it keeps keeps showing. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, I cannot click on it because it. Yeah, I think. Well, anyway, I'll look at it later because when I highlight it, then it goes into showing it rather than like letting me click on it. So, but thank you so much, Fusnapo. We should all kind of take a look at it. It looks serious, so that might be like a biggest news for today, right? It must be. Is that right? Yeah, yeah. No, you said no. Okay. All right. Well, we'll look at it later, but unless it is affecting us right now, right? Okay. But thank you. I sometimes love you guys, in our community. We share things like that. So anyway, so this is our HiveMQ control center. So as you can see too, it's kind of pretty cool, right? Last time too, we were kind of trying to look at some clients, but because it happens so fast and we actually keep missing it, right? So maybe today let's take a look. But first, let's try things programmatically, right? So okay, let's go back here. And as such, right, our server is running. So that's why too, over here is basically running. You can kind of take a look in this console in here. And so now getting to my command line, let's look at it first. Okay, so there's a example.js. So this is over here on my right hand side is the example.js. So let's take a look, right? All we need to do is MQTT and doing some regular housekeeping thing, require your current directory, and then doing the client can be kind of assigned to mqtt.connect. Now, by default, this particular example will connect to the test mosquito website. So if you kind of go over, if you kind of go to this website, test.mosquito.org, you see that actually is a mosquito example site that you can actually use too. So we can also take a look first. Mosquito. Yeah, it's actually here, right? Or oh, sorry. Oh, here we go. Testmosquito.org. So again, yeah, let me make it bigger. So Mosquito too is basically they also publish this for you to kind of like connect to this broker. It's a public test broker that you can use too. But then again, this is again another broker that you can use. It's all completely free, open source, and it's Eclipse Foundation project, right? So you can also take a look into this. So maybe I'll just Food thank you. Yeah, it's not related to IFMQ. Yeah, thanks for alerting us, though. I think it's always good to know. So I really truly appreciate that too. So mosquito .org. Right? Did I spell it right? Yeah. Okay. So folks, if you are interested in going to this site, is Test Mosquito. So this example is actually connecting to the broker, the test broker first. So it would be nice and just to take a look and see what happens, right? And so first, you can actually just do a client.subscribe. In this case, it's kind of connecting to a topic called presence. Now, presence hasn't been created yet, but it will be created if you do a publish, actually. So then you're doing a publish, and then what messages you say, hello, MQTT. And then basically, too, this the message will get printed out when it gets published, right? When the client receives the messages after it's been published from a publishing site, and then the client will end. So essentially, it's just very simple step. It's probably the simplest MQTT example you can find. So in order to run it, you can just say node, and then actually let me bring this up a little bit. I don't know why it is like this. So okay, just want to bring it up a little bigger so you can see it better too. Okay. So you can say node. Well, actually, wait, Control D. Okay. So node example. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm realizing. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, right, the hello MQTT got printed out. But as we were testing it last time, I remember, because if you look into this, right, we're doing a subscribe, connect first, connect, and then subscribe, and then publish, and then an end. Now, it could happen so fast that the client.end gets called first, so then before it gets published, so then you never see the messages. And that's what we came across last time. And Fußnabel was like so fast, was saying that, I think that's what it is. And Fußnabel, you were right. So thanks. And so instead, right, what we did was we kind of changed the program. So here we go. We change it a little bit or modify a little bit. And this time would be kind of interesting too, is that we will set up the client first. And this time, actually, we're going to be connecting to our local host. So not going to the test mosquito one. We're going to localhost 1883, doing a subscribe. We call this thing a webinar, right? Or something, right? And that's what happened to be me testing. I was hoping to show, and that's what it is, folks, if you're wondering, right? We just want to do a little tweaking to this original test client. So we're subscribing to a webinar, hasn't been created. And basically, we will also on message, right? When we receives the message, then we print out not just the message itself, but we also want to print out which topic is this for, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, and then we'll do over here. If you kind of skip the line, the function is basically going to publish in here. So this is the message. I'm saying hello, publishing to the local broker on 1883. Now, the little bit of a tweak I'm doing here is that before we end the client, we want essentially to have a delay so then we make sure that it gets published. And we are assuming within 2 seconds it should be able to get published, right? And basically we're doing a sleep, and then we'll print out potato before it ends. So, okay, so let's kind of doing a run, right? Just to see what it looks like this time. Last time we were running the default example. And so now this one is this one. Here we go. So it's still quite fast, but as you can see, this way putting a sleep in there is kind of guaranteed the client won't die before it gets published is what it is. So basically it's publishing to the local broker, and the topic is webinar. So that's the correct one. So that's what it is. And then we print out, once it's there, it gets the message, it will print out potato in this case. So, okay. So that's the little bit of an example I was hoping to show you. I hope it is helpful. And, I think I've been like streaming for about an hour and 45 or an hour and a half now. And I think what I'll do is that next time, right? And this time, right, it's again, very basic stuff, just to do a client connect, client subscribe, client publish essentially, and then end the client. That's it. essentially for commands using JavaScript. So next time, let me kind of bring up to see how you can do it using Java. And I like to myself learn Go, for example, right? It supports Go. Maybe we'll do a Paho. I think it's a Paho has a Go client. For example, one of these that are new to me, I want to learn that too. And you can suggest to me any kind of languages you also want to kind of give it a try too. So, and like I said, right, let's go back to the Paho one because I wanted to see too. There are other the website of the Paho, and I guess over here too, you can, oh yeah, the download would give you, yeah, here we go. So this is actually what I wanted to look into because maybe we can use an Eclipse Paho client next time. And also, and in addition to also try out HiveMQ Java client too. I think that will be good too, because just now we're just looking at a generic, kind of a JavaScript client. So it's fairly simple, right? And like I said, well, before actually I do that, besides doing the Node.js, is that you also will need to do the node installs, kind of making sure, right, after you download that particular repository. And then let me also try to find you the link to that MQTT.js repository. Then you can also clone it too. So, but before we get to that, I just want to say I've been trying to looking for this because this I think is a very nice very nice table of listing out what are the different clients that you can use, that are supported by Eclipse Paho. So there's Java, Python, JavaScript, Golang, C, C++, Rust, and like I said, .NET too. So if you are familiar with .NET, I'll be interested to see, how it's kind of being done maybe. An Android device, Android service, and embedded C and C++ too. So that would be pretty cool. But as you can see, right, for MQTT 5, Java supports that, and Python, it has support C and C++. So fewer kind of brokers supporting, or fewer languages client are supporting MQTT 5 at this point. So, okay. And then all of these other things. So yeah, so give that a try, and see what you think of. And did I forget anything? Wait a minute. Why am I losing the chat? Yeah. Are you still there? All there? Wait, I am not seeing my. Okay, folks, if you can hold on a second, because for some reason it's I am not connected for some reason. Okay. Wait, I wanted to get back to the chat. For some reason, I lost contact to the chat for a second. So let me kind of make sure I'm still connected, because did we? I think it looks like there was a network disconnect, and I apologize for that. But it looks like I'm still online, but I cannot see it on the Twitch client itself. So, but anyway, I think I've streamed long enough for today. And please give me your feedback too, and let me know what you would like to see, because it also helps me to know that I will be bringing you relevant information that you will find it to be useful. And I know that at this point, sounds like App Boy, you would like to try out Arduino. I think, like I said, I would be very interested in that. At some point, I'm hoping to kind of get my setup in here all hooked up, so then I can also have a camera that's pointing to my Arduino when it arrives, right? So that's my plan. I haven't done it before, but let me kind of get that set up, so then we can also demo using some devices for kind of basically doing publish and subscribe, right, of the MQTT broker running on these small microcontroller. So yeah. And so with that, I want to thank you all. It's almost like 4 o'clock time here, which is, I think, very late for Fustabo. So, and again, thank you to all. Send me messages, and also, my Discord server, right? And where is it, right? Let me give that to you. My Discord server. So Mary's Discord server. Okay, so I invite all of you to join my Discord server, and let me also post it on the chat there. And feel free to send me suggestions, what you like to see, what would be helpful for you. maybe in your journey to learning about this wonderful protocol that can do so much. And get connected with me on my Discord. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then thank you. And I will say goodbye for now. And I will see you next week. Okay. All right. You all take care now. Bye.